since the creation of the movie, well, really you're talking about from like, let's say 1920 onward, every genre had a renaissance. So there were always Westerns.
Yes.
And always horror pictures. But when the Laemmles made Frankenstein, well, Dracula first, and it was such a hit, and then Frankenstein, Phantom of the Opera, and all those pictures, those are big budget pictures. Those are big A-budget pictures, prestige pictures. And almost all of them are based on respected works of literature.
Right.
Which gave them that kind of respectable patina, so it could be a mass audience. There's always an audience for horror. So when Universal was having such great success, every studio, Fox, every single studio made big horror pictures to cash in on Universal's great success. Sure. And it's strange that Island of Lost Souls is so good.
Yeah.
Where was it? Was it all at Paramount? Or?
All at Paramount.
Yeah, all on stage.
And it was not a B picture. They built those 3 big sets. I mean, there are a lot of sets. Yeah. All those makeups. It was not a low-budget movie. And Lawton didn't do B pictures till the 50s.
Right. Charles Lawton, just period, is just great in it. He's so creepy and perfect. And I think the makeups are great. I think this is the best version of that story that's been done.
See, I mean, the stuff they did and the time they had to do them, I thought were just really terrific makeups, you know.
How much time did they have to do them?
About a minute.
Oh, okay.
I'd say, probably something like that.
Can you think of a movie other than The Wizard of Oz that had a makeup call that big?
Well, I'm sure there were a lot, you know, like lots of extra calls and things for like period, you know, biblical movies and things probably had really big makeup calls, but I don't know of this kind of makeup.
Monsters.
Yeah,
creative stuff? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably at least 50 people, I'm sure. Might have been more.
Oh, I don't think so. But there was
a lot. There were a lot of them in the crowd
big scenes when they're doing
the crowd stuff is big.
Yeah, the camp scenes.
And they go way back, way back.
I'm sure a lot of those guys were.
Oh yeah.
Just like guys that they put in the background, but yeah, but I mean, those they were big makeup halls, and they had to be big makeup halls, and they had some good makeup artists.
They did. They had some great guys.
I mean, for what they had to work with, they didn't really have foam rubber in those days.
Nope.
You know, so it either had to be built up out of cotton and latex or cotton and collodion. And
what did they do the makeup with then?
It's mostly hair and people and like God
well, there's
knows.
Putty on some of those.
Yeah, I know, and some guys did have some kind of mask part.
Yeah, some sort of putty or something. It looks like some of it might just been almost a stationary mask piece.
Yeah, now some of them look like they were like a slip rubber even part of a face. But I think for the most part, they just got people that look good for a beast man to begin with, and they laid hair on them. And but I mean, they did a lot with hair, really well done.
Really well, good. The stuff on the shoulders and the backs, really.
No, I mean, I think, and that's why I think this movie works so well. It's kind of I think it's the best of the versions, and they didn't have the technology in all the stuff that we have today. Yeah. But I think the movie benefited from it because you know, we can kind of tend to almost do too much, you know. But since they still had that human element, and they there's something seems so believable about
these guys. Yeah, they were totally. You bought these guys as real animal men.
You know, you said Charlie was doing a lot.
But Charlie did most of it.
Who did Lugosi?
I would bet it's Charlie, because Charlie was so good at hair work. He was great.
But Charlie Gomorrah at Paramount was technically a what? A prop guy?
Lab man?
He was a lab man, but he does a gorilla in this too. That's his gorilla that's in
Yeah, you can recognize the suit.
And so he was there with Wally all this time, and he stayed at Paramount and did Colossus in New York and a lot of those films.
We're talking about Charlie Gomorrah, who's like Charlie Gomorrah, like an old friend of ours. Explain who he is.
He's an old friend of mine.
Explain. Well, not Rick and I. We're just saying it.
He's an idol.
Yeah. He's the gorilla guy. He was the original gorilla guy that looked like a real gorilla.
The best gorilla suit ever.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
What's interesting is these two guys, Rick Baker and Bob Burns, actually are gorilla men and have worked in suits. Bob is Kogar and Tracy. Any other gorillas?
That's it. That's enough.
Rick as Dino and King Kong, and who else?
And 4,000 other gorillas.
The two-headed transplant gorilla.
Sydney,
an incredible shrinking woman. And so you're both gorilla guys. So when they praise Charlie Gomorrah, it's high praise.
And then Charlie's in that scene as the gorilla, with this sort of trying to reach out.
But you never see him again, though.
No,
do you?
That's it. No, he's too busy doing makeup, probably.
But he actually has a lot of different suits.
Well, he's the one that really made the best suits ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
Monster and the Girl suit is just classic.
That is it. But he was a sculptor, and at 18, I have this picture of him sculpting this humongous statue. It wasn't a statue of David, but something like that, and really well done. This guy was a genius, an absolute genius.
Self-taught, obviously.
Oh, of course self-taught. Yeah.
And did he make his molds and stuff? And
He did it all. He did everything. Like when his gorillas, it's just like Rick. He built the whole gorilla suit himself. That's hair, sculpting, doing it, everything. It was all done by him, every bit of it, you know. And not too many guys, except George Barrows was the only other guy I knew that actually made his own suit.
so he goes to Paramount, and he's working in the lab, and they said, we need a gorilla. And he went,
He was a stuntman originally,
I see.
and he played kids,
Sure.
little kids.
Right.
Doubled kids.
Yeah. And then but he was so good, he would sit there and draw and do things, and people said, boy, that's really good work, you know? And then they saw he knew the sculpt things, and he just kind of worked into makeup. It was just a natural progression of things. And the guy he just had it. That's all there was to it.
Well, Westmore was head of the department when they made
Yeah,
the movie.
yeah.
Because that was a big show.
Yeah.
Well, Westmore's were the head of every
They
studio
were,
department at one time.
They were the
in
big
Hollywood.
guys. They
Yeah.
were the biggest guys in town. Yeah.
Bud at Universal,
Yeah.
Purcell,
who was he?
Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers, yep. They were all over the place. You know, every makeup head was a Westmore at one time. But Charlie, you know, when Charlie did this film, they had no idea what this film was. I think when they first, I'm sure these guys said, "What is this? Guy's a bunch of weird-looking animals and stuff in it." And I don't think any of those guys had read the book. Probably didn't even know about it or something. But
Who are you talking about? Who didn't know what it was?
The guys, the guys that played the Beastmen and stuff. They were just called in. They had no idea what they were doing.
They were just called in on an extra call?
Yeah, they're just like, okay, we need some beast men. They thought, what is that?
They had to hire. I mean,
Oh,
they're
I mean,
clearly
these
cast.
are all muscle guys. I mean, they're
Yeah.
all guys that could do stuff.
And some of the guys are guys with weird faces.
Yeah,
they
there's
just
a
had
couple guys that
They
look like
had
they
just
had
weird faces by
noses
themselves, yeah. And of course,
destroyed
they
or
looked for all those guys, you know, and they got them. Charlie said, you know, he did quite a bit of the beast guys, the beast man makeups or whatever it is, and there was a whole crew. They had to be.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
there's too many guys
how many
there.
guys were in those shots? I mean,
Yeah,
it was like,
and
There were
Wally,
like
and Wally
50 or
was
60 guys.
Yeah, and
Oh,
Wally
yeah.
Westmore was the head of it, which he continued being the head of Paramount's makeup for quite some time.
the uncredited head, too.
Yeah,
On a
absolutely.
movie like this, you would think they'd give
That-
the makeup guy credit.
That made no sense.
There is no
at all.
makeup credit?
No, there's none
It's no
of
makeup.
anybody.
Well,
you
the
know?
director, it's interesting because he's not a well thought of director.
Yeah.
The movie's really well made.
Oh, it is.
Didn't he do like House of Frankenstein and
Yes, he
Yeah, all
did.
those.
Yeah, he did those. But you know, but Wally, his real claim to fame, of course, is doing Frederick March's Jekyll and Hyde.
That was great.
That's what he did, and that is an incredible makeup. I mean, even today, that's a great makeup.
Did Charlie work on that at all?
He could have. I don't know. That I didn't know. But he did work at Paramount at that time. He was there. And so he did, I'm almost positive, he didn't say this, but I'm positive he did the Lugosi thing with all the hair because he was really good at doing hair work.
What actually makes the movie for me so creepy is that Lawton's Moreau is so sadistic. And that the House of Pain, that he does these surgeries without any anesthetic.
Nothing.
And he's torturing these animals. And the creepiest thing of all for me was when Lawton is showing Richard Arlen around and explaining everything, and that guy's like under the sheet, screaming in pain.
Oh,
And
God, yeah.
the shot is Moreau and Arlen, and they're in the lab, and you hear the noises, and he's showing him stuff. And then they walk over, you pan with him over to the guys on the table, and the way Moreau treats them like meat. You believe him as a surgeon, the way he explores the guy's face. And you hear them moaning from under the sheet.
Oh, yeah.
That's very creepy.
It bothered me when I was a kid.
No, it's disquieting. That's
It is, yeah.
See, I find the movie deeply creepy.
Me too, and that's what I love about it. And you still get the feeling today if you see it. That hasn't changed.
It's far more horrific than Frankenstein.
Oh,
Yeah, why isn't this film more famous?
yeah.
Well, H.G. Wells hated it.
Really?
He hated it.
kidding.
Yeah, he thought it was, it was banned in Britain.
Yeah.
But he hated it. He was pleased it was. He wrote a nasty letter. He really was upset by the movie.
Really?
Well, he thought it was it is salacious because it's pre-code. When Charles Lawton, for instance, when Dr. Moreau, he wants the creature he's created out of a panther as a woman. He wants her to have sex with the castaway, and when he rejects her because of the stubborn beast flesh. In a really horrific thing, the scene where he examines her claws and takes her to the window to look at in the light, and he says, "Well, cut out this stuff." And no anesthesia in the House of Pain.
No. Oh, no.
Well, what's interesting is then his fiance comes to rescue him, that beautiful blonde, and he says to the doctor, he says, oh, and he literally tells one of the beastmen to rape her.
Yep.
And it's all about raping her.
Yeah.
And it's so odd how Lawton is kind of relaxed about the whole thing. He believes in his own. He does not.
Well, he thinks he's God, doesn't he?
Well, he does not panic until really when he's inside his compound.
Right.
When he's up against that. Until then, he really thinks he's got it under control.
Oh yeah, he thought they could do it, and they didn't, and they grab him. But that one scene, you see one scene where he's on the table. You can kind of see him there, and then they start crowding over, and then you cut back to whoever, and you hear these horrible screams and see these guys with all these instruments and just going at him. Oh.
What's interesting is Charles Lawton's performance is so subtle, you know, because he could be the biggest hand.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's really very, very underplayed. And I love the conceit that they put him in a white suit.
Oh, yeah.
A tropical white suit. He doesn't wear a pith helmet, but he was a big star.
And I thought Richard Arlen was great in the film.
Really good.
He was really, really good as a leading man. And I'd saw him some other stuff, and I didn't think he was all that great. Well, he didn't get to do what he did in this, though. He was like a
His
real
reactions
guy.
are really good.
Terrific. Really, really great. Yeah.
And the script is smart.
Oh, I loved it.
See, that's why the director interests me, because this movie has some terrific performances, all of them.
All of them.
Not just Lawton, the guy who plays the doctor, the drunk.
Montgomery is
He's so full of self-loathing.
Yeah, he is.
He's a great performance. And the other one,
Paul Hurst is always good. It's the captain that comes to
and that little
rescue.
scene, I'd forgotten, but the American consulate, when the captain who threw him off that he punched, is brought up. He's so servile. The whole thing's about class,
Yeah.
but so servile. And when he says, you know, if we find anything wrong, I'm going to have to take your license away. Yes, sir, yes, sir. And he starts to leave. He goes, and you wouldn't like that, would you? You know, it's like, well, it's just the way Lawton talks to the beast man, you know?
Exactly, yeah.
What is the law? Law no more.
That scene with Lugosi and all the beastmen, they're all pretty damn good when he says, you know, what is the law? You know, not to spill blood. And then he goes, but he said.
He tell me spill blood.
Yeah,
He tell me. That guy's really good.
Oh,
and the
yeah.
way they're all going like,
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
What do we know about Bela in this movie? I mean, how was he happy to be in it and have all that hair
what
on
is
his
it,
face? Or
well, 32, he is still quite a name.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, he was, yeah.
So I mean, well, you know.
And he had turned down Frankenstein because he didn't want to wear the makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is
and
they
then
completely
this-
covered him with hair.
Oh, and that is just the most uncomfortable thing you can have on you.
You've read the book, right? Because
You gave it to me to read it.
Yeah, it's really, it's written, you could shoot the book.
Yeah.
Exactly. But this was written as an anti-vivisectionist tract. So you know that, right? It was written, when he wrote it, it was, you know the people who don't want any experimentation on animals, the PETA people and stuff. He wrote it as a fundraising thing, as a pamphlet.
Now that I didn't know.
Yeah, as an anti-vivisectionist. He was totally against animal experimentation. And so that's one of the reasons it's so horrific.
Yeah. Wow.
But what I liked about the book was that they were kind of made by surgery, not so much in the movie. It's kind of a mystery. He's got that big thing, looks like a big ray or something too. You
I don't know what it is.
For me, you know, the mad scientist movie, Frankenstein's a mad scientist, Moreau's a mad scientist, The Fly, you know, he's a mad scientist. All these mad scientist pictures, and there's so many. So many, and in almost all of them, they're very conservative movies, no matter how radical the science is, or how brave and courageous the scientist is. Ultimately, they're very reactionary pictures because there are some things man is not meant to know.
Mr. Parker, do you know what it means to feel like God?
Well, in Dr. Moreau, I mean, it's outrageous because he's like sidestepping evolution. You know, he's creating his own. They're his creations. He's very. He owns them. They're like his.
They're his. Yeah.
But it doesn't end well. He goes, "Those are my failures," and you see out beyond those guys on that treadmill.
Yeah. They're the slaves now.
Earl Kenton is one of those directors who had this incredible career, who started in silence and went all the way up into television. He did Racket Squad, you know, and these work at workaholic directors. In the studio days, you could direct 3, 4 movies a year. And it's strange because most of his stuff is really hack work.
Oh, you don't like Ghost of Frankenstein?
Yeah. And House of Frankenstein?
Yeah.
Did you like them?
I loved them.
Do you love them? Well, why? Because they're good movies?
Because they got Frankenstein
They got
in it.
Frankenstein in the Wolfman and all those guys in it.
And Igor.
And Igor's in
They
there.
put Igor's brain in the monster.
That's right.
So that means whoever directed it, you would have loved it.
Yeah.
It was good.
No, Island of Lost Souls is definitely a better picture, though, isn't it?
No, I mean, one is a really quality film with really
is.
interesting shots.
Oh, yeah.
And good filmmaking.
Well, he was young, and wasn't he?
I don't think it was a successful film.
When it first came out, I don't think it was either.
I think got bad reviews because it's kind of a, when you look at all the other pictures that came out around the same time, we know them all.
Yeah. I don't think those studios really made, in those days, an A picture, a horror film.
A horror film.
I just don't think they did.
Well, they did in the 20s and they did in the 30s. And then it kind of went away, really. I mean, now, with science fiction monster movies, like 8 Millimeter, is that a horror picture? Nah, it's a monster movie, though.
Monster movie.
Yeah.
I'd call it a monster movie, yeah. And I appreciate the technical stuff. I appreciate the makeups and things. I think they're great, but the stories are dumb, and it's gore for gore's sake. They just want to make you sick. It's not
Bring back the Animal Men movies.
Yeah,
That's
Beast
it.
Men.
I agree. Bring those back.
Are we not
Those
men?
were the fun movies to see.